Hello and welcome to the University of Lincoln's Live Lounge this evening. Our Live Lounge this evening is going to be about making the most of your Masters. My name is Beth Pearson and I'm the Postgraduate Manager here at the University of Lincoln. And I'm going to be joined this evening by a number of my colleagues, including Farhan Ahmed, who is the Head of Department for Marketing and Tourism in Lincoln International Business School, but is also our Dean of Postgraduate Study. We'll also be joined a little later by Linda Crosby, who is our Acting Head of Careers and Employability. And hopefully, if we can help her with her internet, which is currently having a few issues, we will introduce you to Fee Griffin, who is an alumni of the University of Lincoln. But first of all, if I'll just bring in Farhan. Welcome, Farhan. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Beth. Good evening, and hello to everyone joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to be here this evening.
So Farhan, I think, first of all, it might be worth having a chat about what exactly a master's programme is, as well as the type of master's courses that are available here at Lincoln. I know we have quite a wide audience here for the Live Lounge, so just giving us an idea about what a master's actually is.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And it might sound like it's got a relatively straightforward answer, but actually there are a variant of masters available to study here at the University of Lincoln. And I'll come on to the subjects or disciplines in a few moments. But I think the first thing to acknowledge is there are different types of masters. You know, we've got taught masters and we have what we call research masters. And there is a real distinction between them. And I think for students potentially joining us this evening who are thinking about doing a postgraduate qualification, it's important to realize that they choose the correct path. And whichever your path may be, it will be designed to make sure that it satisfies your personal interests. So if you don't mind, I'll just mention what those two are. If you're thinking of a taught masters, they are essentially much more structured in the way they are run. So the majority of postgraduate degrees that we offer at the University of Lincoln tend to be taught, meaning they are in most cases 12 months full-time, often 2 years part-time. And in most cases, we now have an option of doing a placement year as well, should you wish to add that on at the end. But I think the key difference between a taught and a research master's is you will have far more structure and physical contact with your tutors. So you'll have structured lectures, seminars, which will be timetabled. And as a result of that, you will then have those sessions on a week-by-week basis. Ultimately, they end with what you and I like to discuss, the dissertation, where you focus your intentions on researching an area of your particular choice. And that's where you get to explore what really makes you tick effectively. As you can imagine, a research master's is slightly different, and it probably goes without saying that it's far less structured. Why? Because you won't have the skeleton as such of lectures and seminars and that weekly timetable contact. Instead, it's often to a certain extent between 12 and 18 months long, and you are fundamentally supported by an academic who can guide you on the research project you are doing, whatever that may be. And we are thankfully blessed at the University of Lincoln by having so many experts that we can safely say, you know, whatever your interest, we will be able to cater for that, all being well. And I think it's important to realize that to a certain extent, whilst they're both postgraduate qualifications, they do tend to have different outcomes in terms of your graduate aspirations. And I'm sure in a few moments, our colleagues from the Careers and Employability Service will be able to advise on that.
That's really helpful, Farhan. Thank you for that. And I think also it's worth mentioning that with our master's degrees here at the University of Lincoln, we do have sort of slightly different types within the taught master's degrees. So for some of our master's degrees, they're very much continuation of your previous studies at undergraduate levels. They allow you to sort of become a master in whatever you've previously been studying. But we also offer a lot of what we call conversion master's programs, which you can go and study. Doesn't really matter what you've done previously. It allows you to really change direction, doesn't it? And a lot of the ones in the business school where you're based are more sort of conversion masters, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's a really important point to acknowledge, like you've said, where you have an opportunity, if you're, for example, carrying on from your undergraduate to your postgraduate studies, or perhaps coming back from a career break, or maybe from caring responsibilities, you have that opportunity where you can, what we like to say, convert, go and do something different, possibly have a second wind in your career and do something vastly different. And as you've just mentioned, the business school is very lucky in the sense that we have a number of programs where we have career changers coming on, where they've come in with a particular background, but they ultimately decide that they want to pursue something different in the years to come with regards to their job prospects.
And I think you touched on it slightly there in your last conversation about talking about people maybe coming back to study, but why might someone consider doing a master's course if they have already got a bachelor's degree? Because we know a bachelor's degree really sets people up wonderfully to go into work in whatever sort of field they want to go into. So what really are the advantages of someone doing a master's degree on top of that previous study?
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. You know, don't get me wrong, by doing an undergraduate degree, you're setting yourself up perfectly for the job market. But there is that extra step you can take by doing a postgraduate qualification. And ultimately, it comes down to a number of key factors. So one thing that you and I often talk about is the postgraduate premium, as it's known as, where it is now openly acknowledged and quite freely researched and evidenced in the fact that you can fundamentally see your salary and your income increase a lot quicker as your career progresses by having a postgraduate degree. And that is fundamentally down to the fact that by having a postgraduate qualification, you're afforded greater progression opportunities, you're afforded greater responsibility, and in most cases, over a period of a working lifetime, that accumulative benefit you have of having a postgraduate qualification is significant. And I think we've got many case studies across the institution where students have openly acknowledged the benefit that their postgraduate qualification has provided them. In addition to that, you've also got lots of other benefits of undertaking a postgraduate qualification. You're obviously increasing your skill set, your knowledge, and as obvious as that may sound, that is really appealing in the marketplace. And if anything, the last year has taught us the art of evolution and adaptability and flexibility. And therefore, if you can acquire new skills through a postgraduate qualification, that will be appealing to the job market. And as a result, you'll be much more employable, you'll be a sought after asset, and hopefully that will be prudent in your career to come. The final thing I just want to say, final couple of things, if you don't mind me saying, is it's also the environment of studying a postgraduate degree. By virtue of the fact that you have an eclectic mix of students coming together in the postgraduate environment, you're able to network and basically acquire professional opportunities and contacts, which you never know in life where they can be used to get experience or open new doors for your particular career. And especially in the business school, where I'm housed, we tend to see students coming from so many different sectors in one group that people start to learn from each other and essentially help each other's careers in the longer term. So that's something really important to acknowledge. And then finally, as I mentioned a few moments ago at the start of this particular talk, there's that opportunity for you to gain industry experience. Many of our postgraduate qualifications now have the option of doing short or long-term placements in industry. And that opportunity to get out there and apply your knowledge and skills is so valuable, and just only goes to enhance your CV and the potential opportunities you may have in the future.
Thanks, Farhan. Yeah, I certainly found that with taking my master's degree. I'm sure you found that when you took yours as well. But I think above all, one of the really wonderful things about a master's degree is it does afford you the opportunity to enjoy another year at university, can't it? I mean, I know for a lot of students in the last year, particularly, the student experience part of their university life has been really disrupted with COVID. But by doing a master's degree, that really is a nice way to extend your time at university, as well as enjoy all of those social elements that make up the student experience that have perhaps been disrupted this year, while still taking advantage of all those additional sort of benefits that you were just talking about now. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If anything, my heart goes out to the students that have had to undertake studies in the past year or so. Whilst we've tried to do everything possible to adapt and make things comfortable, I think by undertaking a postgraduate qualification, you've got that little opportunity of one more year to just enjoy that university experience. And speaking from experience, like you say, it's the best year of your life, in my opinion. I look back on my postgraduate qualification with so many fond memories, and I'm friends with many of the people I met within my cohort. So to have that opportunity to live another year as a postgraduate, I think I would bite your hand off if I was given the opportunity.
I would completely agree with you, actually. I think it was my favourite year at university as well. I just loved the relationship that I had with my academic supervisors, that it was so much more of a professional level rather than just being a student with a teacher. It's much more discussive, and you just got lots of sort of like research, and you get to really sort of dive deep into something you're so passionate about, that I just thought it was such a fantastic year. Talking a bit about research, actually, it does form quite a large part of any master's degree, whether you choose to go down the taught or the research route. So it might be useful to spend a little bit of time talking about the research part of the degree. So what should a prospective student expect in terms of like volume of research? And is there anything they can do as they approach the start of their degree to prepare for that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Now, obviously, what we're about to say kind of differs depending upon discipline by discipline that you have in terms of your postgraduate qualifications. But there is always, as I always say this to even my undergraduate students, it's never too early to start planning for your potential research projects. And I always like to say this to students because we all have things we like to talk about, things we like to read about, watch TV programs on about. And I always say that is a brilliant starting point for any potential research that you might want to do. And whatever interests you, whatever you find yourself being naturally gravitated towards, that is always a good area to potentially research on because you enjoy it. And research is about doing something you enjoy. And I always recommend to students, and if you are an undergraduate who is thinking of postgraduate study, or you're thinking of coming from work into a degree, I would always say to you, start thinking about what you would like to do for a potential research project, or even potentially research as part of your taught modules as well. And that should be something that you genuinely have a passion for. Now, personally, mine is aviation. I've loved it ever since I was a child, and any opportunity for me to research and discuss aviation, I jump at. So it's always important, in my opinion, to begin thinking about crafting ideas of potential research titles, and even thinking about the minor details, such as who could you potentially speak to in industry about it? Are there people you could interview? Maybe do a questionnaire or a focus group with. You can never start preparing early enough, in my opinion.
That's really helpful advice. And I think it's, it's something to think about if you are thinking about doing a master's degree. And I think, following your passion is a really good way to go. And I think hopefully if we get to talk to Fee later on, she'll tell us about how she followed her passion and how it paid off for her. Something else you touched on earlier, which I think is worth talking about in terms of making the most out of your master's, is you mentioned opportunities to do field trips and engage with industry. And a lot of our programs do have links with industry, and we invite in guest speakers to come and talk from those various industries. And we have visiting business partners. And this is a really important part of the program. So do you want to talk a little bit about how that works, Farhan?
Yeah, brilliant. And it's in my opinion, what I like to call the kind of the hidden gems of our postgraduate qualifications, because they're embedded throughout your studies with us. Now, I'm confident enough to say that across the university, all of our academics are exceptionally qualified in their respective fields, many of whom have practitioner backgrounds as well as academic backgrounds. However, what we also like to do, and this is becoming a real strength of our institution now, is work with industry leaders, genuine people who are at the forefront of their respective fields, and to get them to come in and talk about their particular areas, whether that be in the sciences, the arts, the humanities, or in business. We have contacts throughout those areas where within modules and within postgraduate qualifications, we have experts come in, maybe even delivering guest lectures. Many programs now even have industry projects where industry sets us live projects, which we then tackle. And the Industry 4.0 project, for example, which the institution actively promotes and takes part in, is a small example of where we have had industry leaders, companies working with our postgraduate students to solve 21st century problems, whether that be with Siemens, whether it be with other companies nationally and internationally. So these are really important things, because not only is the academic content important within a postgraduate degree, you've also got to look at the value added. What else will you get? And having these small nuggets of, as I call them, gems within postgraduate programs is just so great for the student experience.
I think that's completely right, actually, because it's not just about doing something you love and continuing your studies, but it's also making sure that you're setting yourself up for your future and that you're going to be the most employable you can be. And whilst we're talking about employment and employability, it might be worthwhile now bringing in my colleague Linda Crosby, who's our acting head of careers and employability. Hi, Linda, welcome.
Hi everybody. Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Beth.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So you're our acting head of careers and employability. So would you be able to tell us a little bit about careers and employability service here at Lincoln, and specifically about how you can help our postgraduate students whilst they're studying with us?
Absolutely. So the Careers and Employability Service, first thing to say is it's here to support all our students. So really, whatever it is that you think that you might want to talk to us about, pop in and have a chat with us. But where would you pop in, I suppose? So we have a central office that's based right within the library building on the ground floor. And it's open daily, 9:30 to 4:30. And we are currently, obviously with the current pandemic, are doing a lot of things online, but we're still open. So we're very happy to see people face to face if you wanted to pop in and see us now. Well, obviously not now, it's gone 4:30, but you know what I mean. So we offer 15-minute appointments, so we can help you right from the word go. So if you sort of pop along and think to yourself, oh, I'd quite like to maybe get a little bit of a job while I'm studying my postgraduate qualification, then pop along and see us. We can have a look at anything to do with supporting with your application. And we have a packed events calendar as well. So you can have a look and online and have a look at that. I think they might put the website up as we speak. Also housed in our careers and employability team is Campus Jobs. Now, Campus Jobs is our recruitment service, and this year with the pandemic, we've probably employed around 400 students, but usually we're in excess of 1,000 students, and we have in excess of 1,300 roles available at the university. So if you did find yourself wanting to earn a little bit of money, then come and have a chat with us, and we can look at how we can support with that. We have a big range of employers visitors. We're so fortunate that a bit like Farhan mentioned earlier about industry being involved in the delivery of the programs, industry are particularly involved with careers and employability, and they want to come along and meet you and offer you jobs. So please have a look on our website at the different opportunities that are available for from our employers. And I think the other thing I think I would say, Beth, particularly in this particular environment, is our virtual support. We often find that we get an inbox full of emails at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Not sure if people have had some great times out and they've thought, oh my God, what we're going to do now when I'm about to graduate. So we've set up some on-demand services and virtual support, which is particularly poignant given the current environment we find ourselves in. So if you find yourself wanting to suddenly do an interview practice, you can do that at 2 o'clock in the morning. Or if you want to run your CV through one of our AI software, then you can also do that. And we have plenty of psychometric tests as well that you can practice. So there's lots of things that the Careers and Employability Service can offer you. And I suppose it's what I would say to you is please familiarise yourselves with careers and employability sooner rather than later, because you might be pleasantly surprised about all the different opportunities that are available for you.
Thanks, Linda. That's a great overview. And I agree. I think it's really important to start engaging with the career service from basically as soon as you arrive to start your master's degree. So you're thinking about what will happen next, because I don't know about you, Farhan, but I found that my master's year absolutely flew by. 12 months is not long at all. And it's really important to start thinking about what you might be doing next. So, sorry, Farhan, go ahead.
No, I was just about to completely concur with you. Before you've started, it begins to finish. And if you're anything like me, and I wish I'd engaged with my careers and employability service a lot more, because I found myself at the latter part of my master's degree thinking, what now? So yeah, I wish I'd taken Linda's advice a lot earlier.
Yeah,
do you know what it's Farhan? We're fortunate enough to employ or have three intern roles that join the careers and employability team most years, and our interns often say to us they can't believe how much that they can get involved with, and how they never got involved in the first place, and how they wish they had. So it's a little bit of insight there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it shows you like just how you can make the most of your masters by just getting a bit more involved in just thinking about what you're going to do next. So something else that I think is really exciting for the University of Lincoln is that we launched the Horizons platform last year for our postgraduate students. Could you tell us a little bit more about Horizons and why our postgraduate students might want to get involved in it?
Yes, absolutely. So the Horizons is an exclusive employability program which was designed especially for our postgraduate students, and the aim of it was to support, or is to support, the development of your skills and attributes, and particularly from an interdisciplinary approach. So sort of looking across the different disciplines that you may encounter while you're on your postgraduate study. So we split it into three strands. And these strands are, the first one is deepening horizons, and this is the academic-led discipline. So your tutor will support you with this, and they'll lead on it, and they'll seek to emphasize the value of and the nature of the skills that you're actually developing while you're on your course. And they'll look to plan a program level of activities. So Farhan, again, I keep going back to what Farhan said because Farhan knows, but Farhan mentioned about industry, and so it's really key that your tutors will demonstrate the different industries that are involved in your postgraduate study. And like Farhan says, then maybe they may pop in and do a talk, you may do a project. So that will all be included in Deepening Horizons. And it really aims to support the development of networks. So Deepening Horizons is all around your academic study, what you're actually doing at that particular point. So then the next part is the extending horizons, and this is where you really start to look across the different disciplines that are available at the university. You really start to sort of engage with some other of the courses and students that are possibly working alongside their masters too. And it looks at really considering those 21st century global challenges. And we achieve this by often getting our global professors involved as well, which is a real treat. And these are presented to you through a range of workshops, and they look at different projects that you can get involved in, and you work together as part of teams, like I say, cross-disciplinary, to acquire the knowledge and gain some experience about real-world problems. So it's a real treat, I think, when we've put those on. And then the final part of Horizons is Exploring Horizons. And this is where the Careers and Employability team come in. And we've developed a programme which is predominantly online, so you can look at it whenever you want to look at it. But we also do some face-to-face, when we can, live sessions as well. And this part of it provides a real range of activities and workshops specifically designed for postgraduate students, and to look at what your next approach might be, to look at how we can develop you further. And it's easy to get involved. It's all on Blackboard. You're auto-enrolled on it, and you just need to let your personal tutor know that you're going to engage with the programme, and you can find all the information out. So it's a really great programme.
That sounds amazing. And it's so good that it's kind of online, so you can engage with it as and when you sort of have availability. Because obviously, as a postgraduate student, it's quite a busy year. And so to be able to sort of fit that around your studies and maybe part-time work and any other things you're sort of getting involved in, it's so great that they can sort of do that through the programme. So that sounds amazing, Linda.
Yeah, it is. And there's had some real great academics as well work on putting this together. So it's a really fantastic programme.
Amazing. So we were talking earlier about students when they're selecting their master's programs and whether to pursue something they've previously studied and they're really passionate about, or whether to change direction. And a lot of students really wrestle with whether their master's program is going to be the right program to sort of direct them into what they might want to do afterwards. And I think the thing that probably a lot of your work does is to bring out that a lot of employers are looking for sort of more transferable core skills, such as things like teamwork or communications or resilience or leadership, that a master's can certainly help you to achieve. So how can master's students really help to develop those skills during their studies? And how would you recommend that they showcase those skills to any potential employers?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, because often you can spend many years developing these skills, and showcasing them is something that's really important, because it's a real skill to be able to showcase your skills, and engaging with the careers and employability team, we can help you do that. So I suppose really the first thing to do is to understand the skill that you're developing. And as I mentioned earlier, your academic colleagues will help highlight those and become quite transparent in how you're highlighting those. But also it's about understanding the level of the skill attainment that you've got. So, sometimes you can potentially think that you've maybe developed that skill really well, but by being able to articulate it and give examples of it, it might be able to help you understand that you maybe need to do just something a little bit more with that. And I suppose knowing the type of skills that you need for a particular job is also important. And you can often find this just by looking through a job description or a person specification. But how to showcase the skills, I think, would be, we have a Lincoln Award, and the Lincoln Award is its sole purpose is to help you develop skills, and then also to help you articulate them. And you can do that while you're a master's student and work through it for a year. I think the other thing about developing skills is and being able to sort of remember that you've developed them. I know that sounds a bit strange, but sometimes I did do an interview once, with a mock interview with one of our students, and we managed to get through a whole 30 minutes of a mock interview, and she never mentioned once that she'd worked at Tesco's for 2 years, and we both found it hilarious that she'd sort of managed to do that and not sort of think to, and she still worked there as well. So I think it's really important that you sort of start to build a strong CV, and that will help you identify those skills that you have, and more importantly, where you developed them. And it's important to keep a written record and then update it, because once you do forget, and that's perfectly normal. And then it enables you to refer back to it and sort of like remember that you've developed that skill. And like I say, where you've actually developed it. I think the other thing, and I mentioned, just touched on it there, about undertaking a mock interview. The Careers Service can do that for you. You can have a bespoke mock interview, especially for you. You pop along, and we'll ask you some questions related to a particular job, and we'll give you feedback as well on that. So that again helps you sort of articulate where you've developed that program. And I think the thing that we always say, and you've probably heard about it as well, the STAR technique. So just, I always think about, if you're being interviewed, you're telling a story and you're trying to bring that person with you on that journey. So if you think about the situation that you're trying to describe, the task that you were involved in, and the action that took to actually ended up accumulating into the result. So STAR, I think, is really important. And well, I mean, I could go on forever, Beth. The LinkedIn profile, that's another way of trying to highlight your skills and how you would articulate them. And I think LinkedIn is particularly poignant because lots of people use LinkedIn, and it's a great way to build a network as well. But if you do find yourself at 3 o'clock in the morning wanting to practice your skills, then like I say, we've got some virtual platforms and software that you can utilize as well, such as our Interview 360 software.
I think those transferable skills are just like so important to talk about, because I mean, when I started my master's, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do next. I just wanted to carry on doing something I really, really loved and really immerse myself in it for a year before I went into the real world and got a proper job and became an adult, really. So, it was just such a lovely opportunity for me, but I really had no idea what I wanted to do next. So for students that were like me when they start their masters and they're not sure what they want to do afterwards, what would you recommend to them? Like how should they, make the most of their time with the Career Service whilst they're at the university?
So I think, well, there's 4 things I think I would, obviously 3 things, but we'll count them as we go through, I suppose. But I think the first thing is that I would suggest is people spend a little bit of time thinking about you. What do you enjoy doing? When are you at your happiest? Ask your friends and colleagues to tell you when they think you're at your very best. because you're starting to then understand a little bit more about yourself and what you actually want to do. And then I think the second thing is to understand your strengths. And there's a real difference between strengths and skills. So a skill is something that you develop. A strength is something that's innate. It's something that you're potentially born with. You know, if you look at people like Lady Gaga or Michael Jordan, you know, that they're naturally good at what they do. So I think it's sort of like, think about what your strengths are. Again, ask your family. Let's have a real evening of let's talk about you and start to sort of find out about what you think you're good at. And if you're not sure, then you can always take the strength assessment from the careers team. You can pop in and we can arrange for that. Then I think I would start to think about what are your values? You know, what's important to you? Is it that you've got a family at home? You don't want to be arriving home at 7 o'clock in the evening? Is it that sustainability is really important to you? Because that will help you start to understand about the types of organisations or the type of field of research that you potentially want to go into. So it's those types of different things that you need to consider. And then I think another thing, so I'm on 4 already, could be becoming 5 soon. So I think the fourth thing is to explore and look beyond what you think you know. So, you know, we all have our own communities that we grow up in, and our friends, and we don't want to leave them, and our families. And, you know, my role model used to be my uncle. He was a sales rep at Mars, and I used to think, oh, I want to just be like my uncle. And I did actually end up in sales, but so he was probably a sort of good role model for me. But I never looked beyond that. So I just thought that was where I was going to go. So I would sort of suggest that you try and look beyond the constraints of your communities if you possibly can, because sometimes, you know, we can't. And it's an interesting stat that 73% of our graduates actually don't know the extent of the opportunities that are available to them. So that's another sort of reason why you should possibly, you know, you dare to be different, I suppose, look beyond. And, you know, and if you're still stuck, that's what the careers guidance appointments are there for. You know, come along, make an appointment, and we'll start to explore these things with you and give you a real insight into what it is that you might want to do. And if you're torn between whether you should do a master's or not do a master's, come along and have a chat with us as well, because we can talk that through with you. So just book an appointment with a careers advisor.
Amazing. Thanks, Linda. We've got a question that's come in from 6digit for you that says, what opportunities does Lincoln University offer startups in the tech industry? Which is a really interesting question.
It is a really interesting question. So we do have our enterprise team at Lincoln, and you can, there's funding opportunities that are available. So you can come along and you can put together that they'll sort of look at courses to help develop business plans with you, and you can sort of bid for money. And I think the Students' Union as well also offer the opportunity to be able to bid for funds as well. So yeah, there's an absolute dedicated student enterprise service there to support. So yeah, I mean, and if you wanted to pass on your details, I can even arrange for somebody to contact you and give you some more information about what's available, because I'm conscious that I've probably touched on that and not probably given you as much as, but there's absolutely lots of services and support available for our business startup. You might not be aware, but the enterprise building is actually where our business startups can actually look to start first off. And then our think tank is where our incubations businesses move into. So we actually offer a great deal of enterprise services here.
Fantastic. Well, I think at this point it would be really nice to bring in Fee to have a chat with her about her experiences as a postgraduate at the University of Lincoln. Fee graduated from a MA in creative writing with us, and since then she's won an International Writing Award and is now studying a PhD and lecturing at the University of Lincoln. So hello Fee, welcome to our live lounge today.
Hi, thanks for having me. Nice to see everyone.
So your study at master's level ended up being a huge change of direction for you and a massive change in your life. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So I did an undergraduate degree like 20 years ago. And then after I finished that, I think I just thought, yay, after school I got to do 3 more years of doing what I want to do. And then sorry, that's my dog. And then I just went off and just got a job, you know, because I enjoyed the 3 years of doing what I wanted to do. And then I went and I got a job in a shop, and I did cleaning jobs, and I did bar work, and I did I ran a charity shop, you know. I just kind of did bits and pieces, and it was completely detached. The two things of university and work at that point to me were completely detached. And then years later, here we are. And in 2018, I got made redundant from my job, which was rubbish. But then it gave me the opportunity to think, right, what do I actually want to do? You know, rather than just keep going. And I kind of, you know, I went to the university website thinking, right, okay, I've got 4 kids. I need to bring in some money. Where can I, you know, what MA could I possibly take I could make some money out of? So obviously I did not think of creative writing, even though that was really what I wanted to do. So I looked at a few things and I thought, but I just kept kind of being pulled back to the creative writing page, you know, until you kind of look at your phone, and then you kind of, you know, you go on your browser and it brings up the most recent things, and then it was always the creative writing at Lincoln, and I thought, I asked my most sensible friends, what do you think I should do? Expecting they would say, yeah, no, leave it, just keep it as a hobby, and, you know, do the sensible thing that you might make some money off. But they didn't. They all said, no, do the thing you really want to do. So I did. Again, I kind of thought I was buying a year of time to write in. I didn't for 1 minute think that I would actually make any money out of this. And I did. And now I get most of my earnings from writing, either from or kind of arts area stuff. So like you say, I work for the university now as an associate lecturer. I work for a street arts festival. I recently had a pot of funding as a part of that job from the Arts Council that I had to spend. And when you guys were talking earlier about the importance of networking with people on your course, you know what, when in the role of that job, I was told, right, you've got this amount of money, you've got to spend it, it's Arts Council money, on people in the local area putting on local, you know, events in this area. Who's the first person I called? I called Tanya, who I met on my course. And you know, yes, you know, so she benefited from that. I benefited from that because I knew who to call. She did an amazing job for us, as I knew she would, and she got paid for it. I just can't stress enough the importance of the people you're going to meet doing this above and beyond what your expectations are of what the biggest benefits are going to be, really. And yes, I managed to publish my dissertation as a book. And who told me to enter the competition to win the award to publish the book? It was my tutor, you know. So you know, my life has changed hugely from this. Yeah, if you're thinking of doing engineering and I can poach you over to creative writing, yeah.
So it sounds like the MA Creative Writing ended up opening loads of doors for you, didn't it? So did you expect that when you started it, or was it really, as you say, you just thought, I'll just get to spend a year writing, but you know, it turned out very different from that? And would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think a large part of the reason for that is another thing you guys were already talking about, is the depth of knowledge and of the tutors, and the fact that they are working in their field at the same time as they are teaching. It's really not like, you know, they're just mostly teaching and occasionally do a little job. They are practicing in their field at the highest levels. I got an email today from somebody who's they're basically updating the bios of the tutors on the website at the moment, and this email was sent out just to staff with the current bios they have. And I thought, I'll just have a nosy and read through and see what everybody's up to. And you wouldn't believe it, you know, it's really like, you know, translated into 10 languages, 9 plays for the BBC, book deals with HarperCollins and Channel 4 films, and awards and awards and awards for the staff. And this is like stuff they're doing now. So they know who to recommend you submit to. They know, you know, the importance of networking. And that was a hugely important thing in how things have changed for me.
Yeah, I mean, it really highlights how amazing the academic members of staff are that we have here at the university, and how, yeah, a lot of them do have that practitioner experience. They've been into the world, they've worked in those careers, they've got those networks, they know how hard it can be at times, they completely understand, and they can help sort of plug students into that, and really sort of assist them with getting into whatever they're interested in getting into. So yeah, I mean, it is just fabulous to hear that that's been such a great opportunity for you, Fee. Something else to mention is that many of the opportunities that came about for you came about not necessarily because of your masters, but not necessarily directly related to the content of your masters. Would you say that getting involved with all the opportunities that go alongside your master's study was one of the big reasons that you were so successful, do you think?
I think because I came back to this, so I was 38 when I did the masters a couple of years ago, and coming back to this after spending many years working in the real world, I realized how lucky I was to have this kind of second chance to go back and study and have the time to study and benefit from the knowledge of people around me, that I wrote everything down, and my handwriting is bad, but it was still worth it. It was still worth interpreting it. I'm dyslexic. I forgot what you asked me now. What did you say?
So I was asking about the opportunities that you got as part of your masters that weren't necessarily directly related to the course, but that you sort of like around your sort of experience of being a master's student.
Right. Sorry. So I wrote everything down, and then whenever an opportunity came up, I started having the confidence to look for jobs in that sector, which I didn't before, because I'd written everything down. I was able to kind of just go back to all my notes that I took and just directly lift quotes off the prospectus and off everything my tutor said, and kind of talk my way into jobs or positions that I didn't have the confidence to really feel like I was qualified to do, but when actually it came to it, I do know what I'm doing. And maybe that's an important thing as well, getting the confidence to think, no, actually I do know what I'm doing here. Someone contacted me recently to they had got some Arts Council funding and they wanted a poetry mentor, and they said, what do you charge? And I thought, I don't know, I charge, as a cleaner, I charge £8.72 an hour, but I don't want to charge, I know it should be higher than that, but I didn't really know. So I said, well, he was asking some other people to do it as well. So I said, well, whatever they're charging, if you average it, I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but I said, I'll take that. And it was £200 for 3 hours work. And I think I sent him an email back saying, are you sure? Because that is, I don't talk about money very much, but that just knocked me off my chair, because like I said, I'm used to being paid minimum wage before I did the course. And no one, I don't come from a family where we earn that sort of money. My dad worked at the local tip and made sheds and worked in the Coca-Cola factory in Leeds and stuff like that. And in fact, my poetry collection is a lot about the kind of jobs that that my parents did when I was growing up and that I've done. So I think that's important. So I would say to anybody who feels like a bit of imposter syndrome about coming to do a master's, that do it. and don't be held back by thinking, I don't know, I'm going to be out of my depth here. I think you'll be surprised to find out that you're not out of your depth, not because your expectations are too high of the course, but because your expectations are not high enough of yourself.
I think that's a really, really fabulous tip, actually, Fee. Thank you so much for that. I think if we can now, we'll sort of have a look at some questions that people have given us, and we'll go from there. So Bradley's asked, I have a question. What opportunities can you gain from doing a master's degree? So we start with you, Farhan.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. No, that's a great question, actually. And just before I move on to the question, it's just fantastic to hear Fee's story, because it just encapsulates encapsulates exactly what doing a postgraduate qualification is about. And I love hearing it. It's the second time I've heard it, and it gets better each time. So it's brilliant.
Don't tell me I'm embellishing.
Bradley's question is a very good one in that sense. So what opportunities can you gain from doing a master's? Well, there's a few that we outlined at the start of this evening, which, include the basics such as a higher income, greater opportunities. I think probably using our stories of our graduates to evidence what I'm about to say is probably the best thing. Now, all of our graduates, when they come back to talk to us, often tell us that from doing a postgraduate qualification, they've been able to be afforded far more opportunities within their working environment, whether it be being given specialist projects to do, whether it be given line manager responsibilities, whether it be, afforded responsibility that they probably would have had to wait a number of years for before being acquired. And I think that's important to realize, that the opportunities can be broad ranging. They can be contacts, they can be promotion, salary increases, and so forth. But the key thing to remember is it opens doors. Just like Fee mentioned a few moments ago, it's about the opportunities you are afforded and taking advantage and grasping all of those and using them to your strengths, like Linda was saying earlier on. So there are so many opportunities in that sense. One thing I would also say, during your actual program, there are multiple opportunities afforded to you at that time as well, which are things that we would class as extracurricular. For example, study trips abroad. For example, being able to take part in competitions, whether they be writing competitions, business competitions, and so forth. The key is seizing every opportunity. And as a result of that, it collectively makes you far more employable and an attractive asset, like I said at the start of this evening.
I think that's really good. Bradley says, thank you very much, Farhan. That was a great answer. Another question that I think we'll ask now is from Laura Jane Johnson. So she says she's recently left her career in nursing to go into HR, so a real change of direction. And she's really worried about getting a job in a different field to previous career, which I think is often a big worry for people when they do choose to use a master's to sort of change a different direction. Perhaps, Linda, you might want to answer this one about Laura's concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. And well done, Laura. It's a huge step, isn't it, to sort of suddenly decide you want to change direction, and well done you. Well, I mean, nursing, my God, you've created some fantastic skills, communication, flexibility, caring, critical thinking. I mean, these are the types of skills that will do you really well when you start to think about the next part of your career in equality. I mean, part of wanting to sort of champion equality is about having great communication skills. It's about being able to be a critical thinker and really sort of thinking about, the attention to detail, because that's what really matters. So I think when you think you're worried about it, just think about, and this is where I mentioned earlier on, write down all those skills that you've got, because you'll be absolutely amazed at how much they transfer into your chosen career path. And it's so important to recognize those skills. And then when you're sort of looking at articulating that, use your nursing background as a way to demonstrate how you develop that skill set. And you'll do absolutely brilliantly. I mean, fantastic. Well done you, Laura.
Yeah, fantastic. Well done, Laura. Yeah, I mean, Fee, you sort of changed direction a little bit, and you've had no regrets about that, I assume. You seem to be sort of absolutely thriving since you finished your master's degree.
Yeah. I had a dream about a week ago that I was cleaning the building society I used to clean, and I didn't miss it.
So yeah, it's really about following your passion and taking yourself, life is short, you might as well enjoy it. And what is it, the quote that says something like, a person who does something they love never has to work a day in their life. It's like about doing what you love. So I think that's a fabulous decision, Laura, and good luck with your new career in HR. We've got another question here from Ed, who's asked about changing direction. So he said if he's done an undergraduate degree in a different field, is it possible to do a master's in a completely different field? And I think we touched a little bit earlier when we were talking about conversion programs, but maybe just elaborate on that a bit more, perhaps, Farhan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you were saying, it's an interesting dilemma, this one, in the sense that we were talking earlier about specialist and conversion masters. And just to reiterate, specialist masters are those where you continue the discipline or the subject area that you previously studied in. So you effectively become a master in that area, as Beth quite rightfully said earlier. Then the other option is conversion. You actually actively seek an alternative career path or subject area. Now, quite clearly, Ed, from what you're saying, you look like you're on the latter side where you're wanting to convert and do something different. And if I was to give you a broad answer, for the majority of programs, you have the ability to go from one college to the other, and there will be very few, if any, transition issues at all. There are exceptions, and I'm sure you would understand that there are some particular programs that do require some prior knowledge, for example, chemistry, for example, if you were thinking of doing something in the sciences. But for the vast majority, that transition from one college to the next shouldn't cause you any problems at all. And if I can help in any way in guiding you, please feel free to contact me following today's event, and I'll be happy to talk you through the options that are available.
I think that's a really important point to make, because at 17, when you decide to go to university and you make a decision about what you want to do for your undergraduate degree, you kind of like, you know, might go down one track, but during the course of your studies on your undergraduate degree, you might find something else, both through your studies, but also outside of your studies, that you're really passionate about and really excited about, and that you want to spend, you know, your time doing as a job. So having master's degrees that allow you to change that direction is just so helpful, because it means that you don't have to stay on that track you decided at 17. It does mean you can say, oh, actually, I'm really interested in that. But as you say, Farhan, there are some subjects that you can't do that with. Obviously, if you want to go and do a master's in physics, you do need some prior physics experience. But as you say, a lot of our programs, it's a really great opportunity to go and do something different, you know, see where things can take you, whether that's going directly from undergraduate to postgraduate study, or if you're doing something like Fee's done, where you've gone and worked for a number of years and you've got to the point where you're like, actually, is this what I want to continue doing? Perhaps there's something else I could do. And those sort of conversion masters really help you to sort of maybe change direction a little bit. So there's great opportunities with doing a master's degree. I'm just going to have a look at whether we have any more questions, but at this point, I think we're probably coming towards the end of our talk here. So we'll give people a few more moments to ask any questions. And whilst they're sort of typing that in, I will just mention that I would encourage you to join us next week for our live lounge. Next week, we'll be hearing from one of our fabulous academic members of staff, Professor Daniel Mills, who's an expert in animal companion behaviour and is Professor of Veterinary Behavioural Medicine here at the University of Lincoln. So if you are an animal lover, which I know a lot of us are, and Fee's dog made a star appearance today, I think you'll really enjoy this one. So Professor Mills is someone who's dubbed the real Dr. Dolittle, and he'll be sharing his insight into the behaviours of companion animals such as cats and dogs. So if you have a passion for life sciences or animals, then please do join us for that, because I think it's going to be a really super event. Well, we haven't had any more questions come in there, so I think we'll draw our evening to a close. Thank you so much to Farhan, Linda and Fee for joining us this evening. It's been absolutely lovely having a conversation with you about master's programmes. Yes.
Oh, sorry, it's just that there was a little question there from Fam. Around. That's okay. No, I just sort of wanted to make sure that I just let them know about where they wanted to know how to do the strength profiling. So if you just want to drop us an email at the Careers and Employability team, then we can send you an invite across to do that. So that's not a problem at all. Sorry, Beth, to introduce.
No, that's fine. And actually, if our producer could just pop your contact details along the bottom, Linda, that'll probably be really helpful for them, because they can sort of drop you an email. And there's just a really nice comment as we draw to a close here from Steve, just saying that he's just coming to the end of his Masters in Education and he recommends postgraduate study at Lincoln, and said the School of Education team were really supportive. So that's absolutely lovely to hear. We're glad you enjoyed your time with us, Steve. So that's it then. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this evening, and goodbye from us.